informing me this time.
I've been like dropping the bomb just like mid-sentence.
Well, good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
So glad to be here on another Monday. I need you to get it together, man.
I know. I need to get my whole life together. I'm so happy to be here as well. I'm like waiting for this thing to load so I can like turn the volume off because it always like just gets me in my ear. I've been like dropping the bomb just like mid-sentence. Could you hear that? Yeah, it does that to me every week. So I'm like, just waiting. So, all right, okay. I'm ready now.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the podcast today.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I'm very excited because I feel like this is a burning question that I had for so long when I started, or when I was trying to decide about starting a podcast. When I was trying to start a YouTube channel, and then like, especially for the first 100 subscribers, I really worried about this thing that we're going to be talking about.
What is this thing we're going to be talking about, Sarah?
We are going to be talking about what it's like to be an introvert on YouTube. How it can be like your best tool, but also how to like really work with some of the difficulties of being an introvert, as we all know there are.
Yeah.
If you're an introvert.
If you're an introvert, that is. That's like funny because like, for those of you who don't know, Sarah and I, we are in a mastermind group with other YouTubers who are growing their channel. And I feel like when I first met some of the people in our mastermind group, I had no idea that they were introverts, because like sometimes like when you see the YouTube videos and you see people's personality, it can look like, oh, like they just must be like a really outgoing extroverted person. And so it's like, you never know. Like there are people who are on YouTube who are introvert as I don't know what, and they're doing well, but that doesn't mean that they don't have like things that they have to overcome. And so as an introvert myself, I feel like I resonate with this topic too, because I feel like if you don't know, people might not realize that I'm an introvert, like introvert AF. Yeah. And like on my channel, like I think over time I've gotten more comfortable like being more myself, but like, nah, I'm like super introvert. And so I feel like today we're going to talk about some of the beauty that comes along with that. And we're also going to give some survival mechanisms, like if you're on the struggle boat of introversion as well, on how to like cope if you're trying to grow a channel. So this is going to be fun.
It is. And before we dive in, let's discuss what it looks like to be an introvert. There are 4 types. I did not know this. And alarmingly, I feel like I qualify for every one of them.
Same here.
Some to a greater degree than others. Do you want me to tell you what they are?
Yes.
World. Social introversion is the person who always says no to going to a party. They'd rather be doing something solitary, which I feel, yeah, I definitely, even when I was a teenager and like all of my friends would want to do stuff, I'm like, but as an alternate to that plan, maybe we stay in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we do.
Just watch a movie or something, Yeah.
Exactly. And then there is an anxious introvert, and they stay home from a party also, but they have a reason. They're like very self-conscious about social interactions. It's not just that they'd rather be by themselves or rather be out of like a big party. It's that they're afraid of interacting like that. So that's, I've always thought of my dad that way. Like he has such social anxiety. And there is a thinking introvert, which means that you're pensive and introspective. You like to self-reflect. And the restrained introvert, which means it takes you a while to get going. That is hilarious because that's me. Do you feel like any of these fit you, Lide?
I feel like Yeah, it's of capacity. All of them fit me. I'm definitely a social introvert. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I just struggle with energy sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
when I go out, I'm always happy that I did and that I got the experience. But if it was my choice, I'd much rather just stay at home. Like that's just how I
Yeah.
am. I definitely am a thinking introvert. I do spend a lot of time like reading and reflecting and journaling. I definitely have social anxiety. I don't know where that comes from. And I also tend to be so the restrained one, what is that one? Oh, people who like to have their me time, who need time to pour back in themselves so that they can show back up. And so that's me as well. And I'm realizing that my introversion is just more toward like people that I don't have like a super, super, super deep connection with. Cause if it's like one of my people that I feel like really close to, then like I feel like a little more like open, but like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have very many people like that. Sarah, you run a few in my life. And so which means that most of the time I am like hiding from social interaction because, you know, I don't
Can I
know.
just ask? It just occurred to me, but if you could go somewhere and you neither had to greet nor say farewell to people, would that make it better? Like if you could just jump into the conversation and then like when it was time to go, just like evaporate.
I don't even think I have an issue with like for me like the greetings and the goodbyes.
Uh-huh.
It's just more like I feel like my natural personality, even though I'd rather stay to myself, I feel like I'm like that because I know that I'm like low key ratchet. I'm silly. Sometimes I can be a little bossy. You know me, Sarah.
Yes,
Like,
I do.
and so
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I've just always kind of grown up feeling like, in order to be accepted by other people, you have to be like cool, calm, and collected. And I'm like, I'm not
Hmm.
like that all the time. And so like I just feel like most people can't handle all of this. So it's not like the greeting and stuff per se. It's just like not feeling like I can be my authentic self
Yeah.
in front of people. And it's like stressful to try to be like what you think in your mind, how people want you to behave or be like. And so that's more my issue. But what about you? Like, is it more just like the initiation of social stuff?
I just think like when I see certain people, like for instance, like how girls will sometimes like shriek and run towards each other when they see each other. I have never been that person.
Yeah.
And I've never been like I just don't show a ton of excitement in general. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I'm pretty restrained. Like I am very self-possessed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always feel like I'm on the wrong footing, especially when it's like the tense. It just feels tense to me sometimes when you're
Mm-hmm.
getting started because you're like, I don't know how to small talk. So
Oh
I
God, me
like
neither, Sarah.
walk up to a situation and they're like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And then I'm like, so are you doing okay about your dog's death?
Oh
Because
God,
I don't know
I don't know what
how
to say.
to small talk and I
Yeah.
don't want to. Like it's
Yeah.
so stupid to me to like I don't know. I would just rather like dive into the stuff that matters and it's
Yeah.
always made me an oddball and
Mm-hmm.
I've forever felt that um people like sometimes have a confused look on their face when I'm talking or
Mm-hmm.
like it's like overwhelming to them like
Yeah.
what is coming out of my mouth and like or maybe I'm too intense. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is I definitely have never felt like the majority of people get me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has happened in my real life. And that was something I was very afraid of with YouTube because I'm like, if I don't translate in real life, why would I think I translate on a platform where people don't really know me?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I have a couple of things to say to that. Number one, I could
Hmm.
totally relate to like in real life feeling like I don't know, just like talking to people and like literally feeling the energy or feeling like seeing the look in their face that like I don't know, this is like awkward. There's not a connection here. And so maybe
Hmm.
it could just be all in my mind. But then with that being said, I have had experiences where I'm like, yes, this is my girl. There's a connection here. So I don't know. So basically I'm saying I can relate to feeling like in person, like with some people, some crowds, like just like feeling kind of like a little bit of an oddball out, or I'm talking about something and people just seem like so uninterested. And so we were talking earlier about how we're both Enneagram 5s. And I feel like learning about Enneagram has helped me just be like, okay, like not everybody thinks the way that I think. And it has given me a lot of comfort. If I want to talk about some deeper stuff, I just need to go find me a fellow sister Enneagram 5. Hey, Sarah. My second thought was, I don't even know how we're friends, Sarah, because I don't do small talk either. I don't do it well. And like, I felt like when we first met, like, I don't feel like we did a lot of small talk, but like, I felt like once we like the couple of weeks afterwards, like we had to like build that up, you know? I don't know how either one of us, like how we got
I don't either. And it was actually the other thing, I think the reason I kept like wanting, like, it just bums me out that we can't like hang out together, because with other people, especially like new people, it has to be like, we have to like run into each other frequently for me to even try. But like with you, when we sat together and there was a certain point where we were trying to figure something out, we were working on something, and you were high energy, and then all of a sudden you were quiet and your head was down, you were like looking at your paper. And if that would have been anyone else, I would have been like, they are mad at me. They no longer want to be here at this table with me. And they are ready to end our friendship forever. The world is over. Why am I here? But with you, I was like, oh, I know what she's doing right now. She was like taking a moment to process. She was very excited. And then an idea hit her that stressed her out. And so she's processing. And I just felt like you understood like some of the things that, like really everything, you know, like I have never in my I have such wonderful people in my life, but I've never in my life hung out with someone who I felt like understood without speaking about it, and that I understood without speaking about it. I don't know. It's great.
I was like, what day? I think I know what day you're talking about. Like, so I'm like, what day is she talking about? Well, I think I know what day you're talking about. And I remember having those same feelings too. Like, I remember going home with my husband. I was like, is this my soul sister? Because I think we were both like, about the project, we were like both super energy. And then we both dropped at the same
plummeted.
time. And they were like, okay, like we landed in the middle somewhere. And like, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Like our wavelengths are just like so on point sometimes. And so it's so nice, like, because I feel like you make me feel normal. Like you said, with anybody else, like that could have been like a disaster. Like for me to like be having my highs and lows like that. And so like me and Sarah, like, good to have you, another introvert friend, Enneagram 5 friend, if you're Enneagram 5, because gosh, you just get me, Sarah. So I'm glad that we were able to get through like our small talk hump and, you know, eventually like form a deeper relationship, because Lauren knows, like, just because you're an introvert doesn't mean like you don't want to connect with people. It just takes a minute sometimes.
Right. Yeah. You just have your way of doing it.
Yeah.
Our way of doing it. Okay. So as pertains to YouTube, has being an introvert been like something that's made it easier or harder for you, do you think, to start a channel and then to like keep the momentum going?
Definitely being an introvert makes it harder for me. Like, I don't know, I just always feel this struggle that like I just want to hide. Like even now, like I recently took a break on my channel because of some family stuff, and now I'm getting ready to return. And I think before I took my break, like I was used to like always being uncomfortable. Like, okay, I have to make a video, I have to post, I have to like show up live, I have to do this. And now having that break and not having to do it, like I feel like those feelings of like wanting to hide are very intense, like a little
Mm-hmm.
more intense than what I remember. And so, yeah, like there's always this struggle of just feeling like I have something that I want to say, like I want to help people. But that requires me to kind of be like, the center of attention is not the right word, but it does require me to like kind of put myself out there. And as like a struggling, or I don't even want to say recovering, it's just who I am. Like as
Mm-hmm.
an introvert, like sometimes it's not easy to do it. And then like if there's ever a case where like I have a video that doesn't perform well, like to
Mm-hmm.
me it just, I don't know, it just feels especially soul crushing. Like, and so but you know, like I know that what my intentions are for my channel, and I have to constantly pep talk myself and remind myself of like why I'm here, and the vanity stuff and being seen, that is not it. So
No.
so yeah, what about you? Do you feel like being an introvert has affected your YouTube journey in any way?
Oh, for sure. Like it took me years and years to actually make a channel when I wanted to for such a long time because again, what I was saying about always feeling like an oddball, I was like, dude, no one is going to understand me or like me. And so that kind of feeds in. It definitely fed in before I started my channel. And then it also feeds in very much when I started. And then still randomly, I'll think to myself, like if I'm checking my analytics and it's not looking good for me, I'm like, well, I mean, obviously it's because people don't understand you and they don't like you. And then I have to like slap that girl in the face who's saying such mean things in my head and move on. But the other thing is like, I even if I'm like totally alone and I'm recording, it is so difficult for me to like look at myself and just talk. It feels very foreign. I did a video maybe a year or so ago about the Billie Eilish concert. And in that one video, I left in a lot of the stops and starts that I do and like how hard I left in a bunch of the introduction. I said like hello 50 times and then I said goodbye like 50 times. And I left a lot of it in there just because I was like, I know that there are other people than me who have a hard time just feeling comfortable and in the center of attention, even though no one's physically there, still being the center of attention. Putting a video up where I know I'm like the star of it is very hard, very
Mhm.
hard.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know like you've said that you kind of feel like you struggle with feeling like no one's going to get you, like if you put up your video, and sometimes you feel like your analytics are confirmation that people don't get me. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to know if you feel like that's true, like if you feel like that's sincerely true. I'm just curious.
I think that I um, hyperventilate. No, I think I overreact about it sometimes, but I do think there is an element of that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know who Taylor Wynn is? She's a beauty YouTuber.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so she's very accomplished now, but she is one of the YouTubers like I always needed felt like I needed to be high energy and like kind of flamboyant and fun, but that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like one of the things where I thought like people are not going to get this. And I do think that that is a thing that sometimes people think my energy is too low or whatever. And I always look to Taylor Wynn as encouragement because she had a beauty channel that she did for like 5 years with very little traction.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking up and she's very, very monotone, like way more monotone than I am. Um, Wonderful, super talented, super hardworking. Yeah, she has 817,000 subscribers at this point. And
Mm-hmm.
but it took years and years. So
Yeah.
sometimes I think people are a slow burn, and I definitely have seen in my real life that I am. Like the people who love me, and the
Mm.
people who don't, they don't ever think about me, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
So I've learned to just like be okay with it because the connections that I do have are so meaningful to me.
Really good. Well, I was gonna say, like, I feel like if it wasn't for your YouTube channel and like you being yourself, like I feel like how would we have ever connected? For
Yeah.
example, I feel like I don't know, like if you were pretending to be something that you weren't, you were like super energetic, da, da, da,
Hmm.
even though that's not really who you were. Like I don't know. Like for example, like me, like I don't tend to do well like with people that are like super extrovert in terms of like connecting with them. So I
Yeah.
was wondering, like I wondered if having like a bigger pool of people to connect with made it easier to find those more genuine connections, because I feel like that's the case for me. Like I might not
Hmm.
be everybody's cup of tea. I might have some stuff to say that everybody's not going to connect with, but because of the nature of YouTube,
Hmm.
like the people who do resonate, like I have more of an opportunity to like
Right.
find them. And just from the outside looking in on your channel, like Sarah, people love you. Like I don't know what you're talking about. Like
Those are my people.
that's what I'm saying. Like your channel, like the engagement on your channel is just like fire. And so like I just feel like from the outside looking in, like I would never have known that you felt like you didn't think that people got you, because I just feel like I just see so much like love and encouragement and support on your channel. And so
Oh, for sure. Undoubtedly. Like I have a video going up tomorrow, and I said in the video, and I was thinking about like how the community that I have made on YouTube has really kept me going,
mhm.
because it's been a difficult journey, to be honest with you. And there are probably, I would say, like 20 to 30 channels of people who are so supportive and so awesome, and they show up religiously and have just kept me going. It's been incredible. So I think it has taught me too that there is a lot of benefit in just like allowing myself to be who I am instead of constantly fighting it, which is what I always did as like a
Mhm.
teenager and a younger adult. I was
Yeah.
like, I will stop being this way.
Yeah.
No, just be who you are.
Be who you are. Be happy. Be comfortable in your own skin. And
Yes.
let those who come. And those who
Yes.
ain't for it, goodbye. We ain't for the lukewarm over here. So
No, absolutely not.
yeah. And so I feel like that would be like just one thing that if I could tell little Day Day, I wonder if our audience is tired of hearing me say little Day Day.
Maybe just say what it is in case there are people who
My
are new that are
ideal
listening.
customer avatar. There we go. For people who are new, my ideal customer, the person who I'm talking to when we record these podcasts. If there's anything that I would just want her to know is that yeah, like you might not be everybody's cup of tea if you are an introvert or whatever, even an extrovert. Everybody's
Mhm.
not there for extroverts. Not everybody resonates with them either. But I do feel like since the pool of people is so much more broad, you have a higher chance of connecting with people than maybe you do in your real life. I feel like
For
I have
sure.
so many like friends that I like actually talk to, message, have
Hmm.
their phone number that I met on the internet. Like
I
awesome,
know.
great people. Sarah being one of them. And like meanwhile in my real life, it's a little
Crickets.
challenging over here in these streets. And so like you just never know. So if you feel like you can't start because like I'm an introvert, I don't want to put myself out there, like you just never know who you might attract. And you might attract more people who are more like along your vibe and who
Hmm.
are more a better fit for being in your tribe. So that's what
Right.
I want my ideal customer avatar to know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think one of the pros of being an introvert on YouTube is?
So yes, we have three that we feel like are some good pros. And so the first one being that people who are an introvert tend to be very thoughtful of their viewers. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a pro and a con. It's a
Hmm.
pro because there are people who literally just, gosh, it sounds so judgmental, but like literally just throw crap, like unedited crap onto the YouTube streets. And like,
You've all
they're
seen one
supposed to
of
be
those people.
cleaning. And for some reason or another, we had to look at their wall for like 3 minutes while they ran off to go do something with their kids and they came back. And so to me, I'm like that type of content. Not saying that any of our listeners do that, but that type of content exists, and I've seen my fair share of it. I'll just say that. And so there's just like a level of thoughtfulness that I think that people who are introverts can sometimes put into their content. And like I said, it could be like a not so great thing, because I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like a form of just, I don't know, like just wanting to be like acceptable. Like, I don't know if that sounds so horrible. Like kind of like a form of like low-key people pleasing, because we don't want people to think we're weird. So we like put a lot of thought into like what we do, because we want to.
But that's not the only reason we put thought into it though. Okay, so like if any of you guys are familiar with the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 5, as is Lede, and like when we're being healthy, we are like kick butt. We're so awesome. We do all these different things. But when we're in an unhealthy space, we're the actual worst. And so that's how it is, I think, with everything. Anything about yourself can be a pro or a con, depending on how healthy you are in the moment.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the thought that I put into my videos, and I know it's the same for you, is because I think so much about the people that I'm talking to. I want them to be seen. I want them to feel like I get them, and that, and so I really work with, how do I say this? And what do I like? What advice do I give them that they can resonate with and that they feel like is something they can achieve in their life? Stuff like that. That's when I'm healthy. And then when I'm unhealthy, I will think, how do I make them love me? You know?
Yeah.
Like, please, let me think and obsess about my analytics and about like what's everyone else doing that I can do also, because this is getting really good traction, and like I just am not finding traction right now. So, you know,
I feel like when I guess maybe the reason I brought that up is because yes, there is a healthy perspective. And I feel like over time I have evolved to kind of be able to incorporate some of the healthier elements of being thoughtful of people and wanting to help people and create or think of solutions to share with people to help them like overcome their problem. But even now, I have to be honest and admit that there is still an element of just wanting to be like liked. For example, I was telling you how I feel nervous to go do my live this week. And it's because I'm like, well, what if they don't like my video, or what if they don't get me, or what if there's not that connection there? And so I guess that's just what I'm saying about like the I don't feel like people pleasing is the right word, but there's a element of just wanting to be approved of. Yeah, there you go. Approval. Like there's a that can be something that can be quite crippling. And so it's like you just have to find a way to take that energy and like just see it for what it is. But at the end of the day, like every time I go live, every single time, I have to remind myself, like, these are my intentions. Like everybody might not get it. There's a chance that that approval that deep down inside I might be looking for might not come my direction. But like, as long as I like have my intentions right, that I'm just here to be helpful and to share something that has helped me. That seems to help quite a bit. But like I said, like it's an awesome thing, but it can also be a crippling thing, like if you're not aware and if you're not careful. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I think that is a great tip for if you are an introvert and you are like getting to that unhealthy place of obsessing about if people like you and they want to consume your content. I think another one, especially for me, is take taking a break from YouTube every now and then really helps me because I tend to be a little obsessive about things. I want to do something well, and I think a lot about it. It's just an over analyzing situation. And so taking a break kind of like snaps me out of it, you know?
Yeah.
That's really helped for me.
And sometimes I think, like, for me, it just helps, kind of like you said, snaps you out of it, but it just helps you not be so zoomed in, because it's so easy to feel like YouTube is the whole center of my world.
Yeah,
and when you
it
take a break, it's
is.
like, girl, you got a life, you got a family, like
Yeah.
you have stuff that's going on. And this is just a small little percentage of something that you do for fun. And it puts things in perspective for me. Like, it ain't really all that. So, but sometimes, like, when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff, it really can like start to feel like it's a bigger deal and than it really is. And so sometimes, yeah, it's nice to like pull back a little bit.
Yes, for sure. And I know like one of your methods, and I've done this, I do this for vulnerable videos, like this is what I will do tomorrow. But the post and run, talk more about that.
Woohoo! Yes, I have relied on this technique a lot. It's like you said, for the more vulnerable videos, when I feel like this is something that I have to share, but maybe there's an element of fear. Usually that fear goes back to, oh gosh, people aren't going to get me. People aren't going to like it. How dare I post something like this for the world to see? But something in my heart is telling me it's the right thing to do. So what I will do is I will post it, and I will just stay away from my computer. I will stay away from my phone until I feel like I'm in a better space to like handle whatever feedback or comments come back from that. And half the time, y'all, I be tripping and the comments are not even that bad, or the response is not even that bad. And so
There's
I don't
no
know.
bad responses. What are you
Well,
talking about?
I just be thinking people gonna be like, "Oh my God, you crazy! Look at your messy house." Like, you know some of that. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Not after being this vulnerable. And like, I feel like I've told this story before. Like on one of the most popular videos on my channel, I had to post and run, and I literally felt like this crippling pain in my kidneys. Like I was so scared. But like if I would have been in front of my computer, like I think it would have made that worse. And so I had time to like go and decompress and let all that energy flow through me. I got a chance to cry with my husband. And then I came back the next day and the world didn't fall apart. So the post and run is a good way to like put the content out there and not be so like tied into it until you have like a moment to like compose yourself. So
yeah. Am I allowed to call you out for something? Is that something we're allowed to do? Okay, so this is only to illustrate the fact that it can be so hard as an introvert to post content. So there was a video that Lede put out, and I was watching it one morning after I took the kids to school, and I was like in tears. It was so good. I think it was the hero's journey one.
Oh yes, that one.
Oh my gosh. I was like, it spoke to me on such a deep level. It was so awesome. And then I finished the video. I like it. I go down to comment, and she had the comments turned off.
I couldn't do it.
I had to, I don't remember if I called you or I texted you or I messaged you. I might have done all three, but I was like, you better turn the comments back on. What are you doing?
Much more kind. You were much more kind. You were like, I'm not telling you what to do, but I think this would facilitate with connection, you know, if you allowed people to leave their feedback and thoughts. And I was like, yes, you're right. Thank you, Sarah. Like, that's another one that just, oh gosh, just, it was such a personal video to me. And you know, that's so actually good. What I'm like, not that video did not perform very well at all, but like being able to like take that, number one, like I said, I'm not a super vanity metrics person. Deep down inside I am, but at the end of the day, I'm not. To me, it's so meaningful to just get like 2 or 3 people that are like, girl, I got the message. Like, yes, like this was so good to me. Like that's, and it goes back to that whole self-love thing that I feel like I've talked about in every episode. Like, what has to happen before you give yourself permission to be like, okay, like y'all good with me? Okay, I'm good with me. And realizing that you don't need the external validation, but at the same time, it's nice. And so for me, even like having like a couple of people be like, I resonated with that. Like that was all I needed to be like, okay, now let's move on to the next video. But I was like terrified. Like I just didn't think people were gonna get that one. Like I'm not a very artsy or artistic person, but that was me
Yeah,
trying
you
to do
are.
that. Thanks.
You always say you're not stuff that you are. Stop that.
Thanks.
But I would also like to point out that with your channel, like you were like slow but steady gaining traction until you started putting out videos that hurt your kidneys and that were like more vulnerable. And then all of a sudden you took off because you allowed yourself to just be yourself.
Let them kidneys hurt.
Yes. And just show up exactly as you are, which is so freaking scary. We all know it is. Well, I guess probably not for extroverts. I think that's.
Yeah.
Oh, let me also say, not all introverts are going to feel the same ways that we're talking. This does not apply for all introverts.
Not at all.
And there are many extroverts who I think, I don't know about many, but there are probably extroverts who can relate to some of this as well.
For sure.
So this is not an exclusivity thing. It's just a general rule that we know in our lives and that we've noticed with a lot of people who are also introverts.
Yes.
In the YouTube space. So, number 2.
All right. So we got all of our. Okay. Yes. Let's move on.
Number 2 benefit of being an introvert on YouTube is that you have the capacity to have super deep relationships when you're able to connect meaningfully. And I think that that is definitely, like I said, extroverts do this and they do this well, but introverts tend to like take a little bit more time, I feel like, to connect. But when they do connect, like it's solid. That is your friend. You will absolutely go to bat for them all the time. And we've seen that bear out in our YouTube community. Like there are people who have said something mean to people in our little group of like loved ones. And I will show up and I will talk crap. I do not even care. Exactly. And then those are the people that you show up every video. Like there are people I do not like. There's a channel that I really love, Maria Noble's channel. I neither travel nor eat hardly anything that they eat, but I show up on that channel to like support them because I love them. They're so great.
Yeah.
And so that's like where a deep connection comes into, because if you don't connect like that, you only show up for people when it suits you. So I feel like that's a very big benefit.
Yeah.
Would you care to weigh in?
As someone who is not an extrovert, I cannot tell you what all the extroverts are feeling. I just know that I talked about my struggle of kind of being like an introvert on my channel at one point, and I had a comment or a conversation, I can't remember, with someone who kind of said that they were an extrovert, and they were saying that, yeah, like I felt like I struggled with making those meaningful connections. Like it's just hard for me to go from small talk to meaningful connections. But when I do, like there tends to be like an intense loyalty there. And that person weighed in and was like, I have a hard time making like those deep connections as well, because, you know, it just tends to be like there's many connections, but they're all kind of like they feel superficial. And so, and I don't know, like I said, I'm not an extrovert, so I don't know like if it takes like a large amount of energy to get it to that deeper level. And if there is a sense of loyalty, there could totally be, I imagine that there is, but I'm just saying like pretty much as an introvert, yeah, that's just one thing that I feel like I just don't do well. I just don't do well with like the superficial aspect of it, which is actually a pro. And as we mentioned before, we're going to talk about how it can be a struggle and some tips that can help you when it becomes a struggle. But I feel like I've made such wonderful like friendships and connections with fellow YouTubers who, wait, before we do that, I would also want to say that one of the beauties of connecting with other people on YouTube is that sometimes following people's journeys and connecting with them and watching their video helps you cut straight through the bull crap. So like when it's time to like do that collaboration or to talk to someone, like it really does help cut out like a lot of the fluff, because you're like, girl, I know what you're going through. Like, I know what's happening to grandma. Like, we don't have to do the small talk anymore. Like, now let's talk about the stuff that's important. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, like I definitely feel like that connection that I feel like with people in my real life, like that sense of loyalty, it translates to my YouTube channel for like people that I support and also my subscribers. And actually, this is not the con that we're going to talk about, but there's like a situation where that sense of loyalty and connection kind of like hurt your girl a little bit. There's been people that I thought were like friends, and you know, sometimes you don't know everybody on the internet like that, and it just doesn't turn out to be what you think it should be. So I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, that, I mean, to me, that just shows that like when we connect, like we really do connect and mean something to us. So yeah.
Absolutely. So when this takes a turn for the worse, when this like deep connection feeling doesn't work the way it's supposed to, there are some consequences. And I would say one of them for me is if I'm not in the right headspace, it's very difficult for me to interact in the comments. I know and love these people, and even if it's a stranger to my channel, if they've said something like with any kind of meaning, I'm going to take time to respond meaningfully. And there are just times when I'm being an introvert, I'm just like, all of my mental capacity, all of my like spiritual energy is all used up, and I just cannot, you know? And unfortunately, there have been times when it's taken me days to get back to people. And also, I kind of have a rule now that if it's been more than like 5 days or 6 days, I don't tend to go back to comments, you know, like on a video. If a whole site, because I'm only posting once a week right now. So if a whole new video has come out and then you comment on the old one, I'm probably not coming back. No, that sounds terrible, but like it takes a lot out of me to comment meaningfully. Why is that?
I don't know. I have the same struggle too. Like if I'm not like in that space, like it's really hard for me to interact with people as well in the comments. And like, I don't know, like I do have the same issue sometimes where I feel like it could take me a couple of days to like get back to comments, knowing darn well that if I wanted to create the time to do it, I could have done it sooner. But sometimes I literally just don't have the words to say. Like, and it could be from people that I feel connected with and people that I don't feel connected with. Like sometimes it just takes me a minute to like process, and it takes a lot of energy for me to like kind of get into the headspace. Sometimes I have to like set a timer and just be like, hey girl, like these people are showing up for you. Like they're trying to be supportive and encouraging. They're sharing their stories. Like this is what we're here for. We're here to make these connections. And so sometimes I just have to like put the fire in my feet and get it done. But there are many, many, many times I don't feel like doing it. And I don't know why, because that's what I want more than anything. I want to connect with people. I want to have that community and I want to establish that. But sometimes, even in my real life, I guess it's kind of like the same thing. Like sometimes I feel like I have to have the right words to say. I don't want to like leave after somebody spilled their life story. I don't want to leave a comment like, awesome, thank you for watching. Like, I feel like I have to say something meaningful back. And sometimes that can, I don't know, it just comes from a place inside of me that's like really deep, like, you know, and sometimes it's hard for me to get there. And so, oh gosh.
But that's classic introversion, actually. Like if we are depleted, it is impossible for us to fill other people. And like, if you want to fill other people and like build them up, you can't do it with an empty tank. I think that is a very classic hallmark of being an introvert. So as you say, I like when I'm in a good headspace, when I have enough
Mm-hmm.
energy and capacity to respond, the comments delight me more than I could possibly say. Like comments have kept me going on my YouTube journey. Absolutely. Because
100%
there
true.
will be people who like they get it and they feel whatever the video is and it's helpful to them. And I just being helpful or making those connections is like a beautiful thing to me. It
Mm-hmm.
is so precious and I just appreciate it more than I could possibly say. And that's why I feel like the biggest, fattest jerk when I don't pop right back in and start
Mm-hmm.
replying.
Yeah.
But if I do, if you're friends with me on YouTube and it takes me a minute, it is not because I have not read and
Mm-hmm.
appreciated your comment. It is
Exactly.
because I do not
Minute.
yet have what you deserve. So
Yeah.
I will come
Oh, I
back to you.
love that, Sarah. That's so good. Like, I don't have what you deserve. That's exactly how I feel. Like at that
Yeah.
moment in time, like I just. But the thing is, it's weird, which makes me feel like I need to like do some reflection on this. Is the fact that every time I spend that time going through and responding back to comments, I always feel like on a cloud. Like I always feel like on
Mm-hmm.
cloud nine, and I think it's like you said, like I appreciate that. And that's what I want on my channel more than everything, but more than anything. But it's important to me not to like leave half comments. It's
Mm-hmm.
important to me to like give your comment like the attention that I feel like it deserves. And if I'm not in a space to do that, I prefer to wait until I have the capacity and time to do that. And so, oh gosh, I wonder if extroverts have to like be in the headspace to love on people.
I don't know because a
Wow.
lot of I know that there are different types of extroverts as well, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
extroverts get energy
Mm-hmm.
from social interactions.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I haven't spent a great deal of time studying
Yeah.
in
Maybe I need to extrovert. Maybe they
extroverts.
can give me some of that energy. I need it.
I
But
know.
yeah. Oh wait, I have a couple more tips. I don't know if you're ready to move on to the next
Yeah,
one.
lay it
Okay.
on us.
So yeah, so I mentioned one tip that helps me get through that is just being like, okay, girl, today's the day we leave in comments. And I will set a timer and just usually once I kind of get through that timer, I'll continue anyway. But sometimes I need something to just help me not avoid social interaction. And so having that
Mm-hmm.
timer and being like, okay, as soon as it's done, I can move on. That helps me. Also, sometimes I have to revert to like a scripted little 1-2 liner that I use, which sounds so awful, but whatever. We keeps it real over here on the Momfluence. Like I have like a little 1 or 2 lines where I just pretty much tell people I'm so grateful for your support. I'm grateful for that you're here. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. Like, and it's just like a little thing that sometimes I have to fall back on. Like if I can't find the words at that moment to express the gratitude that I have, that I sincerely feel and sincerely have, but sometimes I just don't have the words. And then music. So music is bae. Okay. I will
Mm-hmm.
put in like some very touching, emotional music that just helps me like tap into something inside of me. And then sometimes I feel like that helps the words just flow and it helps me get into that mindset that I want to be in to like leave very thoughtful comments that help connect and build community. So those are my tips. I know you
Yeah,
said you had one.
I definitely. I know that there are some people who respond to comments as they come in. That is, I try to do that sometimes, but typically I block schedule for comments. Like I'll just decide, okay, I'll give it a few days, especially if it's like been a harder video for me to film. I'll give it a few days and then I'll come back and I'll respond to everyone all at once.
Mm.
And like along with that, I'll just say turning off the TV or being in a place where you're not distracted is key for me. And I think for other extra introverts, because if there is a lot of noise and interruption going, I just feel frustrated. And that's not where I want to be when I'm answering comments. So I tend to do mine at night because A, I feel like a little safer doing it at night. And B, I have less distraction.
Yeah. Love
Yep.
that.
Yep. Well, a third awesome benefit of being an introvert on YouTube is you and I can be super duper innovative.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
let's unpack why that is, Liddy.
Yeah. So definitely one of the pros of especially being like an introvert who likes to think a lot is that I feel like one thing that Sarah and I do, like we read a lot, we listen to a lot of podcasts, and we have a wide variety of different interests. And so one cool thing that can happen is if, like you can apply a principle that has nothing to do ordinarily with your topic and find a way to like talk about your topic and with like a new light and a new perspective. And so I think it's really cool that we can like pick apart and examine our topic of interest in a lot of different ways, and we can provide or we can combine, if you will, like other topics. And I can't really like see, this is the problem. This is a problem. Like like trying to say what I want to say clearly. But yeah, like it's just a cool thing that's allowed to happen. And I was listening to this podcast not too long ago, and I know that this is not an Enneagram 5 podcast. We're talking about introverts, but one thing that Enneagram 5s deal with a lot is the whole introversion thing when it comes to social interaction. But they said that each Enneagram type brings along a certain gift. And one of our gifts is clarity. So we're really good at like just organizing information and just presenting it in a new way. And so that's something that I actually really enjoy doing on my channel. I know I talk about cleaning, but there's probably infinite number of cleaning channels, but I don't think I see anybody talk about it the way that I do, because I spend a lot of time like reading books that are not related to cleaning and being like, I wonder how we can apply that here. And then I'll share it. Like I've turned my cleaning channel literally probably has more spiritual content. And they're like, I just find a way to incorporate it because that's what I'm into. I'm into like self-love and development and habits and just evolving into your highest self. And I happen to find a way to combine that with cleaning. I guess Fly Lady does talk about it, but not as straightforward as I do. So I'm just saying we have the capacity. Anybody has capacity to do that. But if you're a thinking person who thinks a lot, who reads a lot, then you can really bring some fresh ideas to the table. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. And as we said before, extroverts can and do this all the time. But I think what kind of sets introverts at an advantage in this is because we are fine sitting quietly. Like that's ideal for most of us, is to just be able to sit quietly and think, analyze, like just kind of pick apart things and figure out how they work. Whereas like that's very energizing to me, but for extroverts, that's not quite as energizing on the whole, from what I understand. It's like speaking with other people and exchange of ideas that really energizes extroverts. So I think that was a great example you gave, Lede, about your channel, because that is so true. But and another thing is, I just think introverts have the ability to suggest new ideas for the aforementioned reason. We just do a lot of overanalyzing and examining and research. And so like I constantly have new ideas about everything to the point, which leads into the negative, that it is exasperating to some people in my life. They're like, would you stop?
Yeah. Same here.
So yeah. So one really practical hardship of being really innovative or being like someone who is always thinking about new things is editing. I will talk about something, I'll have like a main focus, and then as I'm talking, I will reference in my little brain files a podcast that I listened to or a book that I read, and I'll be like, oh, I want to include that. And then I'll just reach for these things. And then if that happens too much, you end up spending a good deal of time editing, because on reflection, a lot of times that would be interesting information for someone like me, but not everyone is like that. And so like learning how to streamline and kind of make a more succinct point is a difficulty for this particular thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I feel like the only reason I know I struggle with this is because my husband lets me know all the time that it's just I have overwhelmed him. He says I am just a simple man trying to live a simple life.
Like you married the wrong lady.
So long. Well, maybe when we first met, I used to be a simple lady too, and just I acknowledge I have evolved, like in terms of the thinking has. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm like a stay-at-home mom, so I'm not like I have time to like read like when the kids go to bed. So I read a lot more now than I was able to ever been able to in my life. And so anyway, I digress. Yes, like my husband. Sometimes like I'll try to tell him something and it's just, you can just see the look in his eyes. He is trying to be there with me. He is trying, but he is lost. I have this, like, I typically, when I tell a story to him, I have to like go back to the backstory, let him know why I'm even like, how I even came across the information that I came across, who it came from, how they found it takes me a long time to get to the point sometimes. And so, yeah, so that can definitely be one of the bad sides. I don't like using bad. Confusing sides of being somebody who thinks a lot is because in your mind, everything just makes sense. It flows. But to somebody who's maybe never heard of that concept before, like you just lose them. And so like, once again, I'm referring to Enneagram 5s. This is not an Enneagram 5 podcast, but somebody said, I was listening to a YouTube channel and somebody said that pretty much like 5s, we tend to be kind of reserved into ourselves unless you find that one topic that they are just into. And then it's like somebody opened up a dump truck and just let all the information like flow on you. Sometimes it can be, I understand it can be overwhelming. And I do that. And so, so things that kind of help me to not overload my audience is Sarah kind of talked about like being very particular about your editing and trying your best to make sure that everything that you include in your video leads to the point. I chop up, I cut out a lot of stuff as well, which is why I'm like so nervous to go live sometimes is because like you don't get that luxury of being like, that wasn't relevant. You don't make the cut. So I have to be mindful of that. Another thing that I do is I just try to like be organized, like with my thoughts. It's pretty like accepted in the content creation space that whenever you're talking about an idea, usually people can just handle about 3 to 5 talking points at a time. And so I really try to make sure I map those out in advance. Even if I have to like jot it down or fully explain, like have notes that fully explain like where I want to go with that just to help me stay on track because your girl can get off track like really easily. So yeah, just good editing. And when I'm going live, just structure. And with that being said, I just want to leave this little note to my ideal customer avatar. Like, don't get too tied up on the structure thing. Cause I know for me, that has been paralyzing to feel like there's like a certain structure that everybody's using and I don't know it and I have to figure it out in order to make like really good consistent videos. I just feel like as long as you have a plan in advance, like worry about making the structure beautiful and flow at a different time. Sarah, did we ever create a podcast on how we come up with our video ideas and how we
No.
Okay, maybe we'll, girl, there we go.
I think we should
do that in the future. I feel like Sarah and I have really gotten good at thinking of how to organize and structure our content ideas. Like it's still a work in progress, but we've repeated this process enough that I feel like now I'm finally feeling more comfortable, not like super professional, but we have some good frameworks. And so, just having like a really good framework before you start can help not like do the most to people who are expecting victims.
Totally. I almost want to say a little bit of the opposite to Sam, who's my ideal customer avatar, because like if you are not familiar with ideal customer avatar, that is who you're speaking to. And for Lede and I both, that is kind of who we were a few years ago. So we just think about like what we were struggling with that time. And so what I will tell Sam is you think that everyone else doesn't have a script and they just do whatever comes to mind. And so you feel like that pressure to be off the cuff. And also, sometimes you're lazy and you don't want to sit down with your own thoughts and work on a structure. But go ahead and do it, because once you have the structure, you are going to have more freedom, actually. Like, I hate a plan. I hate structure with all my heart, but it is the number one thing that I need, because I will go down every rabbit hole without it, because it's fun for me, because I want to talk about like why I thought this and who I got this idea from, and why they got the idea in the first place, and then what their childhood was like, and then what my childhood was like. Like, I can go on, you know.
Yeah.
So a structure definitely gives me freedom, because I'll be able to see, okay, yes, like I'm still kind of on track with point one. I'm still kind of on, like, I'll never be super concise. That's just not who I am. But
Yeah, me neither.
I'm sure all of you guys understand that. But
a good thing YouTube likes that long watch time, girl, because you can make your long videos a little longer, the better. As long
unless
as people
you
watch
lose them and they're like,
as long as
I
people
give
watch
up.
them. I'm like, being long-winded has paid off in this regard, as long as people watch them.
Yeah. That is the caveat. Yep. So those are our little tips for, well, actually we haven't really talked about tips too much, but I guess the other thing that I wanted to say about a tip for when you feel like you're like possibly overwhelming people with information is, go ahead and know that about yourself and edit, like watch your video, edit it, take a break. That is going to be very helpful to you if you step away from your content that you're creating and give it a little time to breathe and come back with fresh eyes. It's just like editing a paper. If you try to get it all done at one time, it's going to kind of glob together, and you're going to just think it makes sense to everyone because it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
But if you've edited it one time and then you go away and come back, chances are you'll see where some people might get lost when you went off on this little trail here. So that's another little thing. Is there anything else you can think of that helps with this?
I think
keeping on track.
We covered everything, and I was just gonna say, yeah, I double support that. Walk away and come back to it later. Yes. I support that, but yeah, I think we covered everything that we wanted to talk about.
Okay. Well, I just want to encourage anyone out there who's listening and they just feel like discouraged about the fact that they're not maybe someone who is like super high energy, or just like really feels totally comfortable in front of the camera, or feels very secure with all of the content that they put out. If you're someone who does kind of overanalyze and is more of an introvert, I just want to say, as we talked about on this episode, there are so many valuable gifts that you bring to the table, and don't let those things overwhelm you. Like, just choose to see them as assets at your disposal, and don't beat yourself up when it becomes a bad thing. Just realize, like, okay, I'm just not in the healthiest headspace right now. Let me figure out what works to get me back on track and back in a like healthier state of mind, and then proceed. It does not, this is such a journey. I could not emphasize that enough. You're going to, if you'll stick with it, and if you'll keep trying and growing, this is going to just do such amazing things in your life. And it's also going to do amazing things for the people in your tribe.
And my sign off message for Little Day Day is, Little Day Day is my ideal customer avatar. I would just tell her that if you do feel like you're an introvert, just know that there is a space for you in the YouTube community. Because I know that I've struggled with thinking if I could provide value, and you certainly can. Even if you bring your mild manneredness with you. And in fact, you know, as an introvert, I say that I'm mild mannered. I'm not. For me personally, I'm wild. But like I said, sometimes I'd be wondering if I'm too much for people. And I would just tell you to just be okay with being yourself as soon as possible. That is one thing that I wish if I could go back, um, I would change. Like, I wish I just would have had the confidence to be myself a lot sooner. And Sarah, like, I feel like you kind of played a huge role in me just letting down my guard and like showcasing the imperfections. And I feel like now I have the channel that I do have today because like I just try to the best of my ability to just be authentically myself, like flaws and all. And I think what had happened was like when we started meeting, when we did our meetup, I was like, I can't live like this kind of pressure. Like there are literally people who can't ever go and meet their subscribers. They can't meet the people that they've connected with online because they know that if they go and meet them in person, that it's not going to be the same person on their YouTube channel. And I was like, I don't want to live that life. And so, like I said, I feel like the connections that I have now are just so genuine. When I do Skype calls with people for collaborations or I talk to people on Instagram, like I get to just be myself. And to me, it makes it more fun to connect with people who get who you are, who may be fellow introverts as well. And there's a lot of us out there. If you're listening to this podcast, come be friends with me. Darn it. I'm always looking for new introvert friends to be besties with. So anyway, so yeah, just be okay with being yourself. Be okay with sharing your thoughts. I feel like one last thing I need to say a little dating. I feel like mind blown about the amount of time that I spent like trying to create these visually appealing videos and stuff because I thought that's what everybody else is doing. So I need to do that too. Like trying to create videos where I felt like I was just like looking like the life of the party and all this stuff because that's what everybody else is doing. And I have to do it too. And I'm just mind blown that the best performing videos on my channel are the ones where I am thinking out loud. That is literally all I'm doing. And I feel like literally I'm taking my introverted little thoughts and I'm just putting it out there. And so I say all this to say that there's a space for uniqueness. There's a space for you and you will find your tribe. Just put yourself out there and you never know what will happen. So that was that was me. You know, we was talking about being long-winded and stuff. That was me doing that. So I'm done now.
Okay. Well, as right before we say goodnight or good morning, whatever time you're listening to this, we film these live on our YouTube channel if you ever just want to come hang out with us. But we do it at 8:30 Monday night Central Time. But I'll just say my call to action for any of you who are introverts and really struggling with believing you have a place in this YouTube space. I would just ask you to make a list of 3 things that you feel make it harder for you to be on YouTube. And then we've given you some ideas, but just try to see what could be strengths about those things that you view as weaknesses.
Yeah.
And then that's all. Just do that one little exercise because everything can be a negative, everything can be a positive. It just really depends on how you're approaching it. So, yes, my friend.
I don't even know if I have a call to action. I think I pretty much incorporated it in the last one. Just do your thing, be yourself.
Yeah.
People say that all the time. Like Sarah, they say that all the time, but like I feel like just do it even though you're scared, even though you feel like people aren't going to get it. Do it anyway. And with time, you will come to know this for yourself. Just be yourself. So
just be yourself.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, is that it?
I think that's it. We did it.
Okay. All right. Well, we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much to all of you who listen and support us and who show up on Instagram and have been messaging us. That's been so wonderful to get to know new people. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.